Hello, everybody. Welcome into Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. I hope it has been a great week for you and you're ready for the weekend. We're going to get you headed in that direction. Great show on tap again, as always. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com will be stopping by. Zack Osterman from the Indy Star. Jeff Schroeder, new PGA Pro out at the golf club at Eagle Pointe, will also be along as well today. The Masters is underway. See what Tiger is done. Major League Baseball has started. Michael Lewis is in a new job. Got all kinds of stuff going on. Keegan Nicholson went to producing today as well, sitting in for John, the producer. How's your day going, sir?
It's going good. Any morning that I can wake up after a Reds win is a good morning. And I'm going to cherish these early ones while there's still hope while I can before the inevitable collapse of the Cincinnati Reds season begins.
There is no hope because instead of waiting until midway through the season to get rid of their best players, they said, oh, the hell with it. Let's just do it to start the season.
Set a standard. That's what you have to do. But yeah. It was fun.
Yeah, right. Lower the bar, baby. Lower the bar. Did you watch much of the Masters yesterday?
I did. I watched most of Tiger's round, and he looked like he could at least get through 4 rounds of golf. I feel like there wasn't a lot of aches or pains, maybe a little bit of fatigue, but he was hitting the balls well. I think there were a few shots where he came up just a bit short and hit that false front on the greens and it rolled back. But I think that might just be more of having to get dialed in instead of, he doesn't have the strength to get the ball there. So
good day for the Central Division, I guess. The Reds won, the Cards won, the Cubs won. Ross points out on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. So Major League Baseball is underway. Welcome in, everybody. We appreciate you guys joining us here today. Brought to you, of course, by our good friends at the WOW Club. You can go to mywownetwork.com for all that, but you need to get signed up for the WOW Club. That provides members with exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more sent directly to your mobile phone. You can go to your app store and get the WOW Club app like I have. And it's allowed me to do some fun things already. These tastings that they had at Southern Stone, which were amazing. Logan, the mixologist, he's a master. And Aiden, the chef over there. Whoo! Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. Was it last night? Yeah, last night. Pulled brisket.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow, I was right. With the braise. Oh, it was golly. I'm like, come on, man. I need some of this at home. But yeah, just head on out. Join the WOW Club and you can be a part of it. Head on out to any of those spots. But looking forward to talking to Alec today because there's been a lot going on and not a lot going on in the recruiting for Indiana. A lot of it is question because we still don't know. And I would think at this point, well, Indiana has to wait on Xavier Johnson. I think his court case is today, I believe.
Okay.
That may not be completely accurate. I think that it is. Everyone keeps saying they have to wait for his court date. I don't care. I don't care if it's a felony or not. I don't care. It's I don't care what the charge is. It's irrelevant. It's the act of him putting teammates in perilous situations. I'm over it. I don't care. It's not even a discussion for me. That doesn't matter for crap. He may be right here next year. He may go nowhere. No, Nigel Pack visited Purdue. Was that yesterday that he was at Purdue?
Yes.
I have not seen anything or heard anything as far as him scheduling a visit to Indiana. And with that alone, how he says the initial hearings today. There we go. With that alone, though, if Indiana is not even looking at him, that, yeah, when I don't know. Who knows? You can look it up online. I guess we'll have to do that. But I forgot what I was saying now.
You're talking about Nigel Pack and if he's not busy in contact with Indiana.
With not even scheduled, I haven't heard any contact. There's been, to me, I have not heard of any connection there. Doesn't mean it's not happening somehow behind the scenes. So who knows?
Yeah.
That's just the biggest question. Well, and then, of course, the biggest question for everybody else is Trace Jackson Davis. We'll talk about that stuff later. I sent out a tweet yesterday. I fully expect them both back. And then, of course, you saw that they were part of the inaugural 14-person class, if you will, for Hoosiers for Good. That I don't think they stop there. They just keep adding them along the way.
Yeah.
But I think they wanted to make that announcement as more of a, hey, this is what we got going on. Just so you know, we're working on it.
Mm-hmm. Kind of get the tires picking before next season.
Well, and then because Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson are waiting to announce big decisions.
Yeah.
No one else has a decision like that on that group. None of those other 12 people. And if they do, no offense, but no one really cares. I don't mean that in a negative way towards them. Yeah, I just meant from a fan base standpoint, all they care about is basketball. Mm-hmm. They want to know what's going to go on with Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson. We'll talk about that when Alec comes on. But look, see some comments already up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Tim Tebow says, how about Jamal Meeks to Ball State as an assistant coach? Did that something happen, or are you asking a question?
That
I never know what. Okay. Because I hadn't seen that yet. That's awesome. Jamal is awesome. You talk about two tough SOBs now on the same staff. Todd Leary would constantly talk about Jamal Meeks being the guy who was ready to go all the time in practice. Not in a bad way, but just tough. Yeah. I know Michael Lewis is tough. So that's Ball State is not going to be a fun team to play, I'm going to imagine.
Yeah. And my question to you is, would you at all be surprised if he's only there for one season?
One season?
Lewis?
No, nothing surprises me anymore. I think that my honest opinion is if he could go there for 2 or 3 or 4 years, there's a succession plan of some sort out there.
Yeah.
Remember, he's the guy that 1 year ago that I thought was going to be in the Dane 5 position anyway. I was sold on that, and the only thing I think that changed that is that UCLA kept winning.
Yeah.
My honest opinion. Well, that and Michael Lewis told me, as I've said on here, that he was not leaving Los Angeles, UCLA, for anything other than a head coaching job, and he made the right decision because look what happened to Dane.
Yeah.
So now, though, he can go out, become a head coach, get some experience, get a few years under his belt, and he would certainly be a welcome. I think the Indiana fan base, as long as he has success at Ball State, the Indiana fan base would welcome him with open arms. Yeah. He's another guy from the Bob Knight tree, but he's coached. He's coached under some winners. He has been on some great staffs. Mick Cronin there at UCLA most recently, of course. But he's put his time in. He's a smart guy. He's a smart basketball guy. I think he's going to do well. And I would not be surprised at all to see him as the next Indiana coach.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, no one will remember that 4 years from now when that happens, but that I said that. But I'm looking down the road too. So there's that.
Yeah. And you mentioned Mick Cronin and like how he said that he didn't want to leave UCLA, Michael Lewis. And Mick Cronin has a track record of really being able to keep his assistants on his staff unless they get a really good job. Because Darren Savino has been his head assistant for, I think, 10, maybe close to 15 years. And he's got so many job offers during that time. He just hasn't went anywhere. Cincinnati to UCLA. Mick Cronin's a pretty infectious guy from what I'm seeing.
I think that, oh yeah, well, watch him coach. My God.
Yeah.
Wow. He's like a pit bull on a chain in a junkyard trying to get to the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's
and then
great.
he puts
I love
his hands behind his back to try to be nice and then gets at somebody. And then he goes to the podium after the game and he's cool as a cucumber.
Oh, it's funny. The hands behind the back thing is actually funny. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like all right, I'm gonna act all pissed off. I'm gonna lean in, but I'm in control.
I'm restraining myself.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. I love the characters of coaches though. We don't have that as much anymore. And I love that. I love those guys. Rick Pitino was a guy. He was animated, always going, always coaching. Those guys, their minds though, Mick Cronin's a pretty good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Pitino's a damn good coach. One of the best in the history of college basketball. If Rick Pitino did not, I'm not a big fan of his. I just respect his coaching. If he had not made the dalliances with the NBA and Greece and all that stuff, he probably would have been the winningest coach in college basketball. I know that he would have been up there. But who knows? Who knows? Sean lives in Muncie. For the first time since Bonzi Wells, there's excitement again. Wow. This program has been dead. Attendance very poor. That's good to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see that it's brought excitement. I know that some of the guys that went into the portal for Ball State are staying. So good for those guys. Michelle says on Trace's post on Instagram about Hoosiers for good partnership, Anthony Leal made a comment that said, OMG, does that mean you are staying? Well, we're going to wait to talk about that, Michelle.
I did see Robert's comment up here about Michael Lewis possibly going to Kentucky. And I don't know the exact years that are on Calipari's contract, like how many years he has left before it's up. But I do know his buyout, if they wanted to fire him without cause, is close to $60 million. So I definitely don't see him being fired.
No.
But if he's not going to get extended, then Michael Lewis wants to go there. Maybe that's a possibility. But
I still haven't seen that comment.
Which one?
The one about the one you just talked about.
I just had it on screen.
All right. I don't see, but Robert, I don't, even if it did, I don't see Kentucky, A, going after an Indiana guy, B, going after a guy who would have only been a head coach at Ball State for a few years. Kentucky's a school that's going to hire, someone like Calipari.
Or someone from within, like the Duke situation.
Yes, but they've never done that. That's never been a Kentucky thing. The Kentucky way is not Kentucky. They don't have this history of former Kentucky players that are in line. They don't have this history of former players from the state, for God's sake, because they don't produce that much talent in comparative to, say, Indiana. My God, the list that would be on that for Indiana, it would take us all day. Just cover the different schools that they've gone to and coaches. I mean, hell, just the guys from Indiana alone. Randy Whitman, Mike Woodson, Keith Smart, Michael Lewis, Dane. I mean, you just keep on going and on and on and on and on. Lawrence Frank, he was a freaking manager.
Got a break in 30.
Well, we'll do it in 30. Let's see. Make sure. Robert says seems no interest in Pack by you. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. We were talking about that a little bit ago. That kind of I don't want that to be my leading thinker. We're trying to always, of course, find out. But if that were the case, that would just kind of be the leading edge on my thoughts on what's happening with Xavier Johnson. And I know they're waiting for the court case and to see if they drop. Of course, they're going to drop charges down. They do that for everybody. That's what you do. They charge you with as much as they can charge you with. And then they move it down and stick you with whatever. And but that's not the point to me what the charges were. I don't even care. I don't even care what the charges were.
Yeah.
Your fact that he did it again. And I know someone sent yesterday me a screenshot of a comment on a board on a different site where someone had been listening to the show and said, "Oh, we were just raking Xavier Johnson over the coals, just this and that," and said that he came here with the exact same problems. No, it's not what was said. He came here with problems. He had problems at Pitt. He was a problem child, is what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a problem child at Pitt. I don't think there's any argument there. And if there is, it's because you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
And those problems have come here and gotten worse. That's what you call a pattern.
Yeah. Let's pick it up on the other end. We got Alec waiting. We got to go to a break.
Absolutely. Good segue. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from the WOW Club and My WOW Network. Make sure you go there and sign up for your WOW Club. It's easy to do. You go do it in your app store. I've got it on my phone. WOW Club members earn exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more. Sent directly to your mobile phone. We're back with Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com after this.
What brand do you want up? Southern Stone, Cabello.
Either one, and then switch to the next one. The next.
Okay. So Lasley, how are you doing?
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Patagonia.
That's Columbia. No, is it Patagonia? What's okay?
Well, this is Columbia. This, yeah, over there.
Mr. Brand Names.
Well,
Such
this
a
is
frat
Columbia. This is Patagonia. I've got my Gucci shoes on, slippers, but you can't see them.
I don't.
He works for
Come
a
on now.
startup.
I'm not that far extensive there. That's a little too much. You had everything else right except for that last part. So I guess when you look at it, you're not too far off there.
Did you see that I told you that Josh is going to be at that camp?
When? I know you said it, but do you know the dates? Just because, obviously, with
Keegan.
ASU.
Keegan.
Yeah.
When's that? One of the dates for the Rivals camp? Like the
football?
24th, 23rd, and 4th?
Yeah, I think so. Let me look.
All right, yeah. Well, that's the same week that Nike EYBL has their second live period, and that's in Indy. So if we're gonna have someone go to the football camp, we need to obviously make sure we're in sync on that.
We don't need to necessarily go to this camp, but just I got to go there just to say hi to Josh. I've never met him. No one else has to be there. It's not a big deal. But Keegan may want to stop by if he is. Are you going
to the football camp?
Yeah.
If there's basketball, I think I might be on basketball.
Yeah. It wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be bad just to stop by and.
Yeah.
We'll see where it's. Josh. Yeah, we'll see where it's at, and then once we won't know EYBL schedules here for probably another week and a half. So once we get those up and running, then we can kind of game plan for that.
Back in 10. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. End of the week is here, and that means the weekend has arrived. Alec Lasley joining us from thehoosier.com, brought to you by the great folks at Southern Stone Restaurant, Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Oh, man. Southern food with Southern charm, or comfort food with Southern charm, and man, they've been having some great taste testings here of late. Joined, as I said, by Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com, Indiana Rivals. Lots going on. With nothing even going on, Alec.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Indiana's still trying to figure out their whole roster for next year. There's a lot going on in the transfer portal. You're starting to hear some names that Indiana's just kind of starting to get involved with, kind of kicking the tires a little bit. Some that are definitely getting a little bit more traction with everything. But at the end of the day, the two big decisions, right, are Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis, and then one that's kind of flying under the radar that I don't think a lot of people are really taking into account up to now is Jordan Geronimo as well. That one's still kind of iffy in terms of what he's going to end up doing. He obviously entered the transfer portal last year when, I've talked to his family and some people close to him. Last year, he was very close to obviously coming back out to the East Coast and potentially a Seton Hall. Rutgers, obviously, out here in New Jersey. That one's still up in the air, right? I think in turn he will be back, but that one's still one that I don't think you can clearly kind of cross off on your list of someone who will definitely be on the roster at this point. So those are obviously the three key ones. Once you kind of get a little bit more clarity on that, which should start to take place here in the next week and a half, then you should be able to see a lot more kind of roster clarity and really start to see some of these names in the transfer portal kind of take off in terms of their communication with Indiana. But up to this point, you're going to hear names, you're going to see names, but there's still a little bit of buffer room in terms of how extreme and aggressive they're going to go after the portal up to this point.
Yeah, and Geronimo, the thing about Jordan is not that he wouldn't have a place to go, but there's no way I think that he could find a better situation because Hoosiers for Good will chip in a little something to keep him here if the staff wants him here. I promise you that. And wherever else he goes, probably not going to get that same package. Indiana is ahead of a lot of places with that. And if they want you, they'll make it known.
They will. It's just interesting, right? They come out yesterday with the dozen of athletes attached to that. Yep, and a lot of them are obviously those upperclassmen who have been kind of the stars, right? You have a lot of those kind of key names for each program. Jordan Geronimo obviously wasn't one of them, but yeah, obviously not to say that can't happen in the next week or in the next 6 months or anything, right? There's a lot of time before that season starts up. It's always funny because the NCAA, it doesn't allow, these NIL deals to be basically payments to come back to school, right? We all know at the end of the day, they realistically are, but you can't frame it saying, hey, we'll bring you back and get you this sort of, endorsement deal or NIL deal. So, it's just, I say funny because we all know that's what happens behind the scenes. And at the end of the day, that is what's going to bring people back at certain points. But I also don't necessarily think that's exactly what Jordan Geronimo is looking for, right? I think, yeah, if he gets one, great. I think no matter kind of where he's at, he would get something. And I don't necessarily think that's kind of on the forefront of his mind where, it may be some other players. I think at the end of the day, he just wants to, play a lot more, be a larger role on a team. And I think regardless, he would get that at Indiana, but I think that's why he just wants to make, 100% sure that that's exactly what he's going to do. And at the end of the day, I think he will be back, right? So this could be all a moot point here in a few weeks or a few days, but that's just one, again, that we haven't really touched on that I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking at this point.
Well, I think that he was also probably waiting to see what Trayce Jackson-Davis and Race do because that affects him in a couple ways, his playing time, but the fact of being on a winning team with what's coming in. I think that he sees that he's going to be on a pretty damn good team if the pieces are in place. And Sean says with the uncertainty of Thompson, TJD, Geronimo, and Xavier, is this holding the staff back from being aggressive in the portal, not knowing what spots are available? My answer to that would first be they know what's going on from an NIL standpoint. They know that Hoosiers for Good are putting together a package for Race, for Trayce, for whomever. They know all this stuff. So they know things before we do. So is it holding them back? I think they know what they need to know.
Yeah, and
they know that Race is coming back, and I've said that. You saw the deal that Alec just mentioned. Trayce and Race were two of the guys that signed NIL deals. Now, at first, people are going to jump off and say, "Oh my God, they got an NIL deal, so they're coming back." No, part of the deal is you can't require people to go to a specific school like IU. But IU is not going to sign an NIL deal with someone like Race Thompson if he's not going to be at the school. He has no connection to the state of Indiana, nothing. So, and he's not a superstar. So it doesn't bring you anything if he's not a part of Indiana basketball. So I can go. I'm just went out on a limb. No one has told me that, but they have told me exactly what he was paid and the number that I was given, and then I can do some self computation on what Trayce Jackson-Davis is probably going to get from that same standpoint. Out of those people that were mentioned in that Hoosiers for Good yesterday, my estimation is Trayce and Race is getting about 80% of that $470,000.
Well, yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, you can say that all sports, are equal when it comes to college athletics, but at the end of the day, right, you're going to look at your main revenue sports. You're going to look at, especially at a school like Indiana, and look at the men's basketball program. Regardless of the success, they still have the big names, right, that pull, especially in the state, a lot of eyes. And that's why, again, like you said, they are going to get the bigger deals, whether that's, how you should do it or not. It again, kind of a moot point because it's going to last that way, especially for this type of program and this type of state. But yeah, kind of going back to that question that kind of got this conversation started, kind of the staff knowing or not knowing kind of what these decisions are, regardless of if they know officially or not, right? There's still more than one staff member who can now start to put feelers out because they know exactly, regardless of if these guys come back, they still know the positions and the type of game and the style that they need to bring in. So this is not really impacting or affecting too much, right? You could look at it that they're just going to have to keep recruiting Race and Trayce and even Jordan Geronimo as if they're in the transfer portal right now too. So either way, you're still going to have to recruit these guys to come back and find some way to get these guys to come to Indiana if they're not on the roster right now. So at the end of the day, they're still putting feelers out. They're still starting to build those relationships. And with a few of the guys in the portal right now who Indiana has made contact with, that's exactly what they've told me, that it's still early on, but they were one of the first schools to reach out. And it's a lot about building those relationships and kind of level setting expectations of what they can expect from Indiana now and kind of moving forward. And if they do continue to push hard, what those kind of expectations should be here in the coming weeks. So, they're laying it out pretty easily for these transfer portal recruits saying, hey, we're interested in you. We still have a lot of, not too much flexibility with our roster right now because there's still a lot of questions. But at the end of the day, that's nearly every roster in college basketball right now. So Indiana's not behind the eight ball at all. They're very much in the forefront of a lot of these recruitments that they are involved in the transfer portal. And just because you're not seeing them, either set up, Zoom visits or Zoom calls or anything like that at the current moment, doesn't mean that they're doing, that they're not doing stuff behind the scenes to get these recruitments kind of building back up.
And not only that, I think the type of recruits that, whether or not you enjoyed Mike Woodson's coaching last year, and it left a little to be desired. I think he coaches too much NBA style, or he did without NBA type personnel. He's going to be closer to that this year with the guys that are coming in. You've got Jalen Hood-Schifino, of course, who is just tremendous. And when I say tremendous, I'm not saying he's coming in and scoring 20 points a game. He's a tremendous all-around basketball player. He can play the one, he can play the two, he could probably play the three if you forced him to for a while. To be honest with you, he's got the size at 6'5", but he's such a tremendous ball handler. He doesn't panic, and he has got tremendous court vision. His passing is great. He was injured during the championship run, the Geico championship that Montverde won the national champion. I just saw someone pointed out Sky Clark going to Illinois now after decommitting from Kentucky. So those two will continue to play against each other in college, former Montverde teammates. But he had to play with an injured hand. Didn't score the points in championship game, but he continued to defend, to facilitate, to do everything he needed to do. He's a gamer and a team player.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, right? He being exactly kind of what Indiana needs, not only for next season as that secondary ball handler that Indiana struggled to have this season. Whether you pair him in the backcourt with a guy like Xavier Johnson and have those two kind of play off of each other, or you have a lot of minutes with Jalen Hood-Schifino on the floor by himself in the backcourt there. Either way, he's a guy who is extremely versatile in that aspect, whether it's offensively or defensively, in terms of being able to score the ball, but more so penetrating the defense and being able to make plays for others. And you definitely saw last year that Xavier Johnson was the only player who could do that for Indiana. And if he got in foul trouble or he just had an off night, there was really nothing else that Indiana could go to in terms of playmaking ability. And so to bring in another guard, and you look at, we've talked about this multiple times again, but you look at all the really good teams in college basketball over the last decade, especially over the last 5-6 years, they all have multiple playmakers on the floor, multiple guards, and multiple ball handlers. And if you don't have that, which Indiana had basically only one of those guys, you can kind of throw in potentially a Tamar Bates, right, coming off the bench, who could be able to create his own offense occasionally, but obviously not consistently enough to see major minutes. So if you only have one guy who can do that and you don't have a great three-point shooting team, those are two things that you can't really overcome. And at the end of the day, Indiana was not able to really overcome that outside of that kind of late season Big Ten stretch that they had in the Big Ten tournament, and then obviously leading into the Wyoming game there. But those two in the backcourt would be a tremendous duo together. I think that's what you need for Indiana to really take the next step. And that's why Mike Woodson's going so guard heavy in obviously 2022, but even more so in 2023 with Ja'Kai Newton and Gabe Cupps, two guys who both in the backcourt, both extremely physical type guards, both guys who can really do a lot off of the dribble and create for themselves, but more importantly for teammates. And when you have 4 or 5 guards who can play anywhere from the on the ball to off the ball and anywhere on the perimeter, that's when you really start to actually build a roster. And in the college game today, you need to build it from the guards up and not from the front court players back to the back court, because you could have a tremendous front court player like we've seen in Trace Jackson Davis for 3 years. But if you don't have the guards to surround him with shooting and playmaking, then they can easily double, triple team him. And that offense is completely a moot point after that. So
We're
It
talking
all
about
starts
Indiana last year. That's
Yep.
excuse me. That's Indiana last year right there.
And
If you
at times this year.
That's what I meant. I meant this past season.
Oh, yeah.
This recent past season. That's the difference between Indiana being a top 4 team in the Big Ten or not. I'm not going to go over it again. We did yesterday because I did the very thing. There were just so many easy games out of the how many losses they end up with? 11, 12, 13, 14. Who's counting, right? But there were so many Big Ten losses that you could sit there and count how easily that they could have won. You're like, good Lord. So yeah, it's that close. They're pretty damn close. But the difference in any other year is Trey Jackson-Davis probably would have left. And now you're catching up again. Now you got to reboot everything. Indiana is looking.
And unfortunately, I think you're unfortunately 1 year separating there between having that perfect roster around a guy like Trace Jackson-Davis, and that's just unfortunate how things have unfolded. But that's obviously the life of college basketball, right? If you miss out on a
but that could be changing here.
Yep,
for next season, and that's exactly what I think is going to happen. I do. I think that I've said it. I sent out a tweet yesterday that I fully expect both of them to be back. They signed nice big deals. I know that by rule you can't require a student to go to a specific school, but as I just talked about, was that what you were on about race? No one's going to assign race to an NI deal in Indiana if he's not going to be playing for IU. That's stupid. So common sense just tells you. And the number that I was given, I'll just say it, was 150,000. So if race is getting that, you do the math and you just do a guesstimate on what Trace is going to get. And that's just from this deal. He already had other deals. And who's to say he's not going to get additional deals on top of that? So he could set out and have a really good financial season in this upcoming season. But I fully expect both of them to be back. And I think Indiana is going to be in a great position. Are we at break time yet?
Yes, we are.
When we come back, I want to talk about the potential of the new faces that are coming in and that could. I think that Indiana is in a better position than a lot of people may think for Malik Renaud. And a big part of that, though, would be because of Hoosiers for Good. I believe that as well. We'll see. I don't know with what happened yesterday, if that impacts what they can do for those guys at the moment. But we'll talk about that when we're on the other side. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Alec Lasley here from thehoosier.com. Keegan Nicholson as well. Brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant right here at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. It was the side of the coaches show this year. But it is great comfort food with Southern stock, Southern charm. All a part of the WOW Club and the WOW Network. Back with more right after this. Holy smokes. I couldn't get that out.
All right, be right back.
All right, I'm going to change. Well, K Bello looks all right there on his because he's got a white background. K Bello.
One thing I was going to chime in that conversation was how irresponsible.
Well, if you're going to stay in, you better chime in.
I was planning.
I was thinking. I was there. It's like if he goes sit there, better flip and talk.
How irresponsible?
Nobody wants to see that mug.
How irresponsible would it be of this coaching staff to wait this long and allow them to wait this long if they're still making a decision and then fall behind in the transfer portal?
On who?
Xavier? X is a whole different situation. But I don't understand how you can allow Trace and Race to wait this long to make a decision if they're still making a decision.
Because they're not waiting, and the coaching staff knows what's going on behind the scenes. That's my point. That's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
The relationship, well, I want to save this for on air because it's good stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'm just in the unlikely event that they don't come back. I think that's completely on the coaching staff. But it's also kind of selfish for Race and Trace to wait that long.
Alec, bring your camera down a tick. Just to even. There you go. Evens us all up now.
It's got to hide a logo.
Keegan, I would suggest that you put your Twitter name up instead of Keegan Nicholson.
Yeah, no one cares what your name is.
No one cares what your name is.
Layouts. Virtual background. No. Camera. I don't even know how to do that.
Go to you see your box on the bottom left?
Yeah.
Click on the 3 dots, and you should be able to edit your name there.
You can put dork, jackass.
I'll kill you.
Brian Evans is the funniest one. He always, like, we'd come on to, he'd do a post game of the basketball show. He'd come on and it would always be like, I forget. It would just be something hilarious. Well, I told him to join this segment.
I think he's at work.
Yeah.
All right, back in 10. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday. I love saying that. It's Friday, baby. That's always a great day. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com sitting in with me right now. Brought to you by our good friends at Capello Restaurant here in Bloomington on the square at the former Grazie location. Incredible Italian food. All part of the WOW Network. Make sure you get your WOW Club card. WOW Club members earn exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more directly sent to your mobile phone. Alec, what did I say I wanted to talk about when we came back?
Of the
new faces coming in. CJ Gunn, let me start with him. Dude has shot the lights out this past season in high school. A year ago in the summertime, I believe the coaches told him, brother, you can't average 10 points a game. You got to make it happen. And he took it to heart and started working on that, doing that. And then when he was able to come back to high school late in the season, or not late in the season, but later in the season, this year from an injury, his first game back of the season, 36 points. I was there, 36 points, 18 in the fourth quarter. I think he hit 9 3-pointers in that game. Obviously the dude can shoot. He did that all the rest of the year. That's in high school. Can that translate to college? Because if Indiana has had problems, the biggest problem they've had, well, besides poor hires, has been shooting. Shooting. Is CJ Gunn a guy that's going to be able to come into Indiana and do that on the collegiate level?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think, you can expect the same type of performance as a freshman, though. But, when you look at his kind of projection and the potential trajectory that he could take, he's a guy that fills an immediate need for Indiana, and that's playmaking and ability to create his own shot. And obviously there's going to be a lot of learning curves, right, coming in as a freshman, and especially playing in the physical Big Ten that it is on the wings too. But he's a guy who, with his ability to elevate, we've talked about this before, and get his shot up and off over any kind of defender. That's something that you don't see a lot in the high school game, at least, anymore. All right. Especially the mid-range game too, where with his ability to take a couple dribbles and a pull up, 15 to 17 feet, and obviously stretching behind the 3-point line where he is so lethal. But yeah, he's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands every single possession in order to create open looks. He's a guy who has done a much better job moving without the ball, I would say, over the last year and a half. And he needed to do that this year, especially if he wasn't on the ball, because defense would swarm him and make life a lot more difficult than it would be last year, the year before, when he was either the second or third option, or even again as a sophomore when he was the fifth option coming off the bench at times too. So he's a guy that I think you look for maybe to have a little bit of a role next year, especially with that ability to shoot. But sophomore, junior, senior year, however long he's going to stay at Indiana, those are the years that I think fans should be most excited about, because you get him in a college system, a system that Mike Woodson needs shooters for, but get him more physically ready for the college game. And I think you're looking at a guy who is vastly underrated, and part of that just goes into the style of play that Lawrence North has, which doesn't showcase, unfortunately, a lot of the skill that they've had over the last few years and a lot of the athleticism that they've had. And then you pair that with his injury the first half of this season, and I think a lot of people kind of forgot about him. But the season that he put on this year, to kind of follow up with the stretch that he had in the playoffs a season ago, I think you build off of that, and fans should be extremely excited to see him down in Bloomington, because he's going to have a terrific career and he's going to add a lot to Indiana's roster over the next few seasons.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you've got Jalen Hood-Schifino, who five-star. Of course, his talent is unquestioned, but I said it earlier, I don't want people thinking he's going to come in and score 20 points a game. That's not his game. He plays the point, but he's not necessarily a point guard. He's a 1-2 combo guard. Wouldn't you call him a combo guard?
Yeah, I would say that up until this year, especially with Sky Clark missing the majority of the season for Montverde, he played a lot more on the ball and really, really enhanced his ability to make plays for his teammates. Not that it wasn't there before, but definitely
but how
this year,
good was that
point guard?
I think that was the best thing that could have happened to Jalen Hood-Schifino, because it forced him to be on the ball a lot more often, to give him the potential to do that in college, which will in turn give them the potential to do that at the next level, because that's probably where he's going to be if he makes it to the next level. But watching him during the Geico Championship, man, he had an injured hand, but yet you could not tell it, other than he didn't score. He didn't try to score, but his court vision, and when I went down there and watched him play, that's the first thing that stood out to me, his court vision. I call him the fly, man. He can just see, it's like he sees everything. But I think that's something that Indiana lacked last year. Xavier did a lot of good things toward the end, but it just seems like they were never really in sync. They kind of came together at the end of the year. When I watched Jalen Hood-Schifino, the offense seems to just flow better. He finds guys. So I think that he's going to be a great addition, and I think he starts at the 2 spot next year for Indiana without question.
Yeah, no, exactly. We touched on it the last segment, the ability to have 2 playmakers on the floor at all times, and that's Indiana didn't even have 2 playmakers on the roster last year. So adding that to that starting lineup, or any lineup, is something that you need. We spend a lot of time talking about Jalen Hood-Schifino, as we should, right? Because he's the kind of spotlight of this class, and going to be a huge part immediately for next season. But another guy kind of looking forward to seeing in this class is Caleb Banks, right? Kind of that hybrid forward that I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, because you have the in-state pull of CJ Gunn, and then you have the 5-star, flashy point guard in Jalen Hood-Schifino. But Caleb Banks is a terrific addition to this class. Obviously has been in this class for a while, so it's not new to the fold here, but a guy who can play both on the perimeter, kind of that hybrid 4 position, kind of a similar type position to Jordan Geronimo, different skill sets, not as athletic, definitely still a very good athlete, but not as kind of crazy athletic that Jordan Geronimo is. But you look at Caleb Banks as a guy who I think could see more of a role next year than a lot of people are really thinking. Really good defender, versatile player, a guy who can, again, play a bigger type of 3 on the perimeter, and still has the ability to knock down some outside shots. By no means is he a knockdown shooter, but can stretch the floor a little bit there too, and brings that versatility of another rebounder, a guy with extreme length and some good athleticism to pair with whoever would be in that front court to whoever would be in that back court. And so if you're looking at playing Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino, that kind of eliminates some of the need for like a true ball handler or third ball handler on the floor, because you're going to have two main guys there. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility to play a little bit bigger on the perimeter, because you do have those good backcourt players. Only thing with that is, right, Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino, neither of those guys are really true knockdown shooters. So you need to make sure you kind of level set that with some floor spacing as well. But all in all, I mean, this class I think is going to be really, really good for Indiana, not only next year and immediately, but for the next 3 or 4 years and however long they're in Bloomington.
Yeah, because as Howie, normally he's our comedian, but correctly points out, 10 points, and hell, it wouldn't even have taken that, but 10 points from each of the starting wings, think of the difference. Hell, 6 points a game, or 8 points. If they would have averaged 8 points a game, yeah, that would have been, that's exactly what I talked about earlier. Howie, I agree with you 1,000%. Jason says he believes the NIL will put IU in the driver's seat recruiting against Midwest schools. I believe that as well. I really do. It's got to get to the point. It's just like we talked about earlier.
So I don't mean to jump in there, but the thing about Indiana now is, right, they're not just recruiting, with Midwest schools. That's the old staff and what they did over the last 5 years.
It's a much more national brand.
Yeah. So while that will obviously definitely impact some Midwestern recruitments, if you're looking at Indiana's recruiting as a whole, right, they're very heavy on the East Coast, right? They're very heavy in the Southeast. Those are kind of their two heaviest spots. And when you look at especially the Southeast, right, obviously a lot of that has to deal with football in the SEC, but the SEC is starting to become a powerhouse, at least in the regular season in college basketball. So they have a lot of money down there and a lot of abilities, right? You look at Kentucky with all their NILs that dealt with either Porsche or Lamborghini or anything like that this season. So they're, not to say that Indiana's behind the 8 ball, but right, when you look at flashy endorsement deals, I don't necessarily think Indiana has the leg up when it comes to the recruiting that they're doing now, just strictly due to the fact that they're so much more nationally relevant in terms of the guys that they're going after.
Well, and let's be honest. I'll be honest. You had programs like Kansas, Kentucky, Nike being fed by the schools. I mean, schools, by the shoe companies. That's why Bill Self is in trouble right now. We'll see what actually happens, but they were just getting fed these recruits. So that doesn't leave my mind very far. Indiana wasn't doing that, and I'm not a homer. If you listen to this show, I'm not a homer. But now, do I think that Indiana would have gone down that path had the previous coaching staff still been here? You're damn right I do. I absolutely believe that they would have. And I believe that that's where it was headed. But we're here in the now. Indiana is so far behind. And with the coaching change, you've just got to get through this cycle of out and in, this first out and in cycle, so you can get on a cycle. Although there will never be a regular cycle again, Alec, with the transfer portal and all of that. But and again, don't forget, NIL, you cannot require someone to go to. Part of the deal is not that they attend Indiana University or wherever it may be. It's, hey, you have to go do this. You have to go do these public service things. But do not think that the Hoosiers for Good and Indiana University are not locked arm in arm, hand in hand, because that is the exact case. But that's what it has to be. That's how it has to be. Schools can't run them. And you want one that you have trust with and somewhat control of, that that there are other NIL collectives out there for IU. But as much as they say, I don't believe that it's done simply for the student athlete. done for attention. It's done for a lot of other things, but it's also geared in one direction. There's no control. There's nothing, because athletes are allowed to set up deals with whomever. Someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Kenneth, who said, there we go. Nope. Where was it? It was Kenneth, but he said, get a deal to, where was it? Man, I lost it, but get a deal to get Geronimo on the show. Well, if there's a company that wants to pay him to come on here and rep your business, hell yeah. I'm not going to pay him to come on because I don't care. But that's how it should be. A company, they're doing services for the companies. So yeah, make a recommendation, Kenneth. I'd love it. We can have the Geronimo show. Geronimo, that would be his call out. But all right, we got to get back to what we were talking about. And you talked about Caleb Banks defensively. How is he defensively?
Good. I mean, his athleticism, his length, he has some good quickness. He's 6'8", 6'9", with kind of close to that. I don't know if it's exactly 7 feet, but a very close to a 7 foot wingspan there. He's extremely long, so he can disrupt, get in the passing lanes, guard anywhere, I would say from 2 to 4 at times, depending on the 4 that's on the floor. Not a guy who's going to bang a lot down in the post, but he's, again, a guy who just brings versatility to the floor. And that's what you need in college basketball nowadays. And if you don't have that, you're going to struggle on both ends of the floor. But he's a guy who would have the ability to switch on multiple different ball screens. And I think that's something that whether Mike Woodson and Indiana really want to do that for the majority of next season or not, time will tell. But he does bring that option, and that's not something that you had with guys like Parker Stewart, Miller Kopp, and even Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis at times. They just didn't have the ability to switch on, a shooting guard, a small forward, and a power forward, all in kind of consecutive possessions without really giving up much. And he does have that ability. Again, freshman, a guy that, is probably not going to make a huge impact next year, but a guy who I think is going to have somewhat of a role and be able to find his way into the lineup, especially if Indiana's a little thin up front, just with his ability to kind of play and guard multiple positions.
I think that, as you mentioned, Geronimo stays. They still have an open spot right now, an open scholarship. And of course, Malik Renaud, Jalen Hood-Schifino's teammate at Montverde, is the guy that they would love to have for that. Which, is he someone that could come in and play right away? Don't mean start, but is he going to play? I mean,
Malik,
is he going to? Yeah.
He's someone who would come in and start immediately.
Wow.
For Indiana. He's not a guy who's going to average. He's not a guy who's going to average 15 and 8, right? And that's the thing that I think a lot of Indiana fans need to realize is you're not going to find a Trace Jackson Davis in the transfer portal anywhere. So you have to get with what you can, and that's combining Malik Renaud with.
Now, is that with Trace Jackson Davis being here? He starts.
Well, no, I don't. I don't think both Trace and Race Thompson are coming back. So I'm taking the route that he fills in one of those spots. I believe one of them will come back, but then you throw in Malik Renaud in that other front court position, and that's where you get him starting immediately. I mean, I think he's too skilled of a player. He still needs to get a little bit quicker, but he's very skilled in the fact that he can, again, terrific rebounder, guy who can bang down low, good size, good length, good athleticism, and still a guy who's a pretty good defender on the other end of the floor and has some good passing capabilities where you can kind of run some offense through him at the high post and play a little bit of that high-low game that you saw at times, obviously midway through to later parts of the season with Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis. But yeah, at the end of the day, he's a guy who's going to come in and impact the game. Not a guy, though, like I said, that's going to come in and average 16 and 8, 15 and 8, may not even average 12 and 7 kind of thing, but a guy who you look at as you take immediately and you insert him into your lineup and he's going to make some plays for you.
I think that they both come back, especially with the information that I was told about Race. Why would you want him over Trace? And yeah, he's not the guy that I would chase if I was chasing someone. I would have definitely made sure I had Malik Renaud before I signed that kind of a deal. So, man, Trace may be the one that's gone. Then we don't know. I don't know what his deals were. Maybe his deals weren't that good, weren't as high, because if he is leaving, that's going to make it difficult for him to fulfill his obligations. If he were to go to Europe, per se, and there's no other place else you would go to make money. You're not going to make money in the G League. Hell, he can make more money at Indiana in the NIL than he can in the G League.
Yeah, obviously time will tell. I think, again,
do you think that he gets drafted? Do you think, I'm not saying he doesn't get drafted in the second round, but
can Race Thompson play in the G League? Absolutely. Yeah, I think you look at the guys who have played there, and this
he's
is
making more money. Making more money in Indiana.
Potentially, but with the 10-day contracts, right, with a lot of the new structure that the NBA's put in place, you look at a guy, kind of a comparison that I see, a guy like a Juwan Morgan, right, who is never an NBA player, but has been called up a few times to the NBA affiliate here. So it's, a very similar situation, but Race Thompson's going to be a guy that you find out first. Then it's going to be Trace Jackson Davis, because he will, regardless of what his final decision is, will go through the NBA draft process and test the waters that way, which you literally can drag on here until I believe the deadline is June 1st, when they have to take their name out to keep eligibility. So that one's going to go on for a while.
All right, we got to go to break.
We'll see. And we're going to do that, man. I can't thank you enough, Alec Lasley, for more and total complete recruiting coverage. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com, Indiana Rivals. Alec is on top of that entirely. These constant daily updates in there as well on the boards, and everybody's chatting, got their opinions in there. So make sure you go to thehoosier.com and support Indiana Rivals. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. See you, Keegan.
Have a great weekend. Yeah. Hey, we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're brought to you by Cabello Restaurant, a part of the WOW Network. Cabello, located on the square in Bloomington, from Rigrati location. We're back with more. Zack Osterman from the Indy Star joins us right after this. Great show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Alec may be right, but I just don't see the point of making the deal to Race if you don't have Trace, or if you don't have Malik Renaud in the hand.
Yeah. But I just don't it sets Indiana back possibly years if Race and Trace decide to wait this long and then not come back. So that's worst case scenario.
Best case scenario would have been if Race left, Trace stayed, and Malik Renaud came in.
Yeah,
Hello.
But yeah, there's also a theory that I could see where if they both leave, that Woodson could possibly shape a lineup of how he actually wants to shape it and not have to rely on a big post guy.
Oh, absolutely.
So
you need a 6'9" guy, but you need a 6'9" guy that's more mobile or more versatile than Trace Jackson. You need a guy that can shoot the damn ball.
Yeah, but you also
from
need
10 feet.
guards.
From 10 feet.
You need better guards to shoot.
But they're on the way. That is on the way.
Yeah, but like I'll never say that it's not a good idea to bring back Trace Jackson Davis because he's an uber talented basketball player. So
even and that's someone who has a glaring weakness and he's still dominant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty good when everybody knows pretty much what you're going to do because it's the only thing you can do, and you still can score 30 freaking points.
Mm-hmm. Zach was supposed to be on at 9:30, but
reach out to him.
I don't have his number.
I'll text him.
I'll just stay in and we can talk until he comes in late and then add him. This is my point. What Mike just said. All right, we're back in 10.
Which is what?
If they both are leaving and haven't told staff, they're doing the school a major disservice. That's my point. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios today, as always, brought to you by our fine friends at Remax Realty. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, make sure you get with Cheryl Sizemore. You may need her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not in today's tough housing market. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back now, Keegan Nicholson. We're waiting to see if Zack Osterman is going to join us. Certainly hope so. Definitely want to continue this conversation with him that we've been having because he always has very strong opinions as well, much like myself. But regardless, Indiana is going to be in a hell of a lot better shape next year. No matter what is done, Indiana is going to be in such a better position. Whereas prior to last season, every year, the fans, it would crack me up. The fans were full of hope, but I'm like, I know what's on the sideline. I know who's on the sideline. You're all screwed.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that anymore.
Even outside of the Indiana program, I mean, you look at Johnny Davis has gone NBA, Keegan Murray gone NBA, Jaden Ivey NBA. Not sure about Kofi Coburn because I know he's not that high on draft boards. I think he's like a mid to late second rounder. So I don't know.
He's going to be a European lifer.
I don't know about that. He's a force. He's a physical force.
But he's not. But the difference is he's a physical force in college. That's bigger than everybody else. He's not going to be bigger or stronger than everybody else in the NBA. Those guys don't have to be as big, to strong. They'll just out-jump you. You
ever seen Kofi Coburn?
Yes, but if he's that dominant, why didn't Illinois win more? If he's that dominant,
what seed did they get? They got like a 3 seed, didn't they?
Yeah, a 3 seed.
They got to share the Big Ten title.
But they didn't win the Big Ten title. They lost to another team that was just like them. Kind of punk people. That's the college game that's going to go away. I mean, not necessarily go away. There'll be plenty of schools that probably run that, but for schools that want to win a national championship, that is not the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's old school, man. You're not posting up Kent Benson in the middle and running screens around with this, that, and the other thing anymore. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Purdue keeps trying to do that. The Big Ten overall keeps trying to do that. And it has done nothing nationally.
Yeah.
What Big Ten team has Indiana has let the Big Ten down. I'll be honest with you. I've said it before. They've let the Big Ten down. They should be always, they're a blue blood, and they should always act like a blue blood. And they haven't. And sadly, it's because They've let people in and to decision-making positions that didn't have a love for Indiana, that didn't have a connection to Indiana. And I'm not talking about sports. I'm just talking about the presidents now.
Yeah.
That's where the problems started. That's where the issues started. Then you hired people in other key positions like an athletic director. That should not have been an athletic director. That was never an athletics director. It's mistakes like that.
Yeah.
What Big Ten school hires an athletic director with zero sports and athletic director experience? I'll take Indiana for 1,000, Alex. Ding, you would be correct. And that is 10 years of toiling in BS.
Yeah.
That is why Indiana is where they are today.
Yeah.
And the only reason. It's sad. But that
I got
is
Zach in the green room. I'm gonna bring him in.
Bring him on, baby.
Sorry
Zachary,
about-
how are you doing, sir?
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm not getting push notifications to my phone, and obviously I'm not into my email right now a lot on my computer because I'm on leave. So if I don't get it on my phone,
daddy
I'm
duty,
barely
brother.
knowing what day it is.
I hear you. I'm the same way. I figured it was daddy duty, no concern. How is the young man doing?
For the moment, he's asleep over here. So
Well, I better
long
keep
may
my-
that remain. So
I better keep my my voice down a little bit. But obviously, the conversation a big part of the conversation today, the Hoosiers for Good, the NIL stuff that's come out. I think you may have been the first to report it. But and then I spoke with someone very close to the program that gave me an exact number for Race Thompson, which tells me that there's no way he's not coming back if that is the case, even though I know that it's not a requirement, but it just not would have made sense to sign that deal. And unless they're signing Trace Jackson Davis to small dink deals, I just don't see anyone putting six-figure kind of money into a guy just because he's from here if they're not still a part of the program. So therefore, I've just drawn the conclusion that I think that they're both coming back. I think that they both will come back, but that's not, that's just my opinion.
yeah, I mean, it is worth saying, when I talked to the director of Hoosiers for Good yesterday, he went out of his way to say these deals are not and cannot be contingent on continued enrollment. And I think he was saying that, it was unspoken. I think part of the reason he was saying that was to say, we're not announcing for Trace and Race. That
Exactly.
I think part of it too is underscoring the idea that those relationships are not going to be as what's the word, is defined as a college career. And the example that I used on a radio show yesterday was, I think a lot of us saw that Indiana wound up in KJ Evans' top five, the top five player from 2023. He plays with Jalen Hutchefino and Malik Ray.
Right, Montverde, right.
No, I'm mistaken. Let's say Indiana gets him, and I'm whenever I do this, I always say I'm not speaking with inside information. I don't want people to think oh, he's talking about this because he knows something. But let's just hypothetically, he signs with Indiana because he's a top five prospect. He's a likely lottery pick. All these different things. He has the appeal and the profile that Hoosiers for Good would want to interact with, and they set him up with a 1-year NIL deal in September of 2023. Because that would be the year he came to campus. Let's presume he declares for the draft April 5th, 2024. Well, you still want that relationship to exist. His brand power didn't go away because he's announced he's leaving Indiana. If anything, it's enhanced because he's now putting his foot in the NBA pool too, and he's got more appeal there. And if you're thinking if you're talking about Trace Jackson Davis, using him as an example here. Let's say he leaves. Well, he leaves, but he's still Trace Jackson Davis. You know what I mean? He's still got, how many Twitter followers? I can literally find this out while we're talking. he's still got 32,000 Twitter followers. You know, he's probably still got a similar following on Instagram. If he makes noise in draft preparation, then it gets even bigger. And the other, and so you don't want to limit those relationships, I think, is the point I'm trying to make, the broader point. And again, this is also an NCAA rule, because these deals can't be inducements for players to enroll. So they can't be inducements for players to stay enrolled.
Officially. On paper,
sure,
at least.
Of course. The other part of this too is, let's say both these guys leave, but let's say, and they would not share with me the particulars of each athlete's deal, but you sit down and parse out the money. I think it's fair to assume both guys are, if not past six figures, very, very close to six figures. I think if you're Hoosiers for good, this is your first class of what you hope are many, many classes of athletes doing this, forming these charitable partnerships. Even if both guys leave, you've just announced to the next class of basketball players, football players, women's basketball players, this is the kind of money you can make. And this is the starting point. If this grows, then the dollar figures might grow as well. If this becomes something where more charitable partners get involved, more IU fans think, that's something I want to donate money to, and blah, blah, blah. Well, you just said, again, even if these guys leave, you just told the next group, here's what you can make through us. Here's why you want to work with us. And by the way, it's also going to help your brand in terms of your association with charitable causes and different things like that. So I think that there's some of it that's procedural, but I think there's some of it that's also symbolic, that goes beyond just Trace Jackson Davis or Race Thompson, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. And I think that, I just, in the last segment, I talked about Indiana, whether people want to say they are or not, they are a blue blood. They haven't acted like it for way, way too long. And they've let the Big Ten down, in my opinion. They should be the spotlight program all the time for basketball, at least. But this is a way for Indiana to get back there, because it just seems like every year it was this one off. They could never get the cycle together, and this will kind of allow them to get the cycle together, keeping a player that one extra year that they needed to have, or bringing that player in. I think they've got a better than average shot at getting Malik Renaud from Montverde. But if Race and Trace both stay, I don't know that would happen. But if they were both to come back, this team is in position to be really good next year. We have to wait to see what's going to go on with Xavier Johnson. We'll talk about that in a second. But this team is set up to be pretty good next season if those guys come back.
Even if you kind of let's say for a moment you get Trace back, but Race leaves, and you replace him with by signing Malik Renaud, or Trace leaves, but Race comes back, and you decide to play a small ball front court that's got Race and Jordan Geronimo both. I think you're still, provided you don't see any roster churn anywhere else, I think you're still probably talking about a top 25 team going into next season. And maybe not a team with Big Ten title aspirations, or at least a team that's expected to compete for a Big Ten title, but certainly the sort of team that could, if things shaped up a certain way. Listen, this uncertainty is not, it's really easy to, and I know why, IU fans care about IU. They don't care about anybody else. And I understand that, but it's really easy sometimes to get, sort of tunnel visioned and take yourself to a place where you think, oh my God, I'm 1 foot away from all my program's problems and 1,000 feet away from every other program's problems. My program is in chaos, or my program, there's so much uncertainty, or I don't know what to expect, or whatever. Well, trust me, go to most other programs around the country and you'll get the same thing, because the portal does that. The portal, I think, has led to more aggressive coaching change decisions in some cases. And that leads to guys like Malik Renault reopening their recruitment. Frankly, I think the portal and NIL combined lead to situations like you have at LSU, where it's just so easy to look around and say, this is a bad situation and I don't have to live with it anymore. That you get, so all of a sudden, we just dumped 10 to 13 really talented college players or high school prospects back on the market. Like, that's a lot. And so this uncertainty, it's reflected everywhere. But I think if you're Indiana right now, you feel good about your backcourt again, as long as Xavier Johnson's not going anywhere. And whatever happens in your front court, you, at least if you're Indiana, you really seem to be giving yourself options. You have Trace and Race who can come back. You've got Jordan Geronimo, who's a really promising young player. You're firmly in the frame for Malik Renault at this point. And that can all go wrong. It can all go sour, obviously. But for the moment, if you're Indiana, you have options. And I think that's what matters most.
Absolutely. Forrest mentioned that Trace Jackson Davis does not have a legacy at IU with him. He says you can't have one without winning a Big Ten championship or an NCAA title. But I'm not saying yes or no to that. But it got me to thinking is he's going to be the leading candidate. If he were to come back, he would more than likely be the leading candidate for Big Ten Player of the Year, I would imagine.
Trace Jackson Davis?
Yes.
He'd certainly be one. I mean, I think, and again, I haven't, because I checked out so soon after the season, I haven't followed everybody's decision. I mean, Zach Edey is another one that if he comes back, I think would be firmly in that conversation.
I don't think he dominates enough. He changes games, but he doesn't have 30 and 40-point games. And
maybe he can if he's not rotating with Trevion Williams. I mean,
yeah.
and I'm not picking
there
on
is
him.
that.
There
is that.
Purdue was almost a slave to its success in some ways this season because it got stuck between those two guys. But you don't know what everybody's decision is going to be. Has Kofi Coburn said anything? I'm not sure he has. He's another one of those guys, not unlike Trace Jackson Davis, where it's sort of like, hey, the NBA probably knows what you are, broadly speaking. If you want to come back and keep making NIL money, that's great. If you want to move on and start your career, that's great too. But certainly, at very least, Jackson Davis will be one of the contenders for Big Ten Player of the Year. He will be, as things are tracking right now, a preseason first-team all-conference player, which, is essentially when we're talking about sort of trying to forecast that kind of thing in the preseason, and we never do it perfectly, nobody would have seen Johnny Davis or Keegan Murray coming to the degree that they performed this year. But as we did, as we tried to forecast those things in the preseason, your preseason first team all conference is basically your candidate pool for, player of the year going into a season. And I think Trace Jackson Davis is highly likely to be in that mix, in that group.
Xavier Johnson, we know, had an incident earlier this week. Not the first time that he has had whatever you want to call it, a discipline incident at Indiana alone. We know that was a part of the group of five that I call them up at Northwestern. And he didn't come from Pitt with a halo over his head either. So my question is, how can Mike Woodson keep him, which I know the importance of having him on the floor, but with the statement he made at Northwestern, how does he now keep him with a pattern of doing things that are not good for himself, but not good for the team, that are putting teammates in peril, and basically just not being a good leader and someone that you can trust?
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally. I don't. I mean, I want to be really careful. Like my remit is not to lend my opinion in a lot of cases, and so I don't want to just sound like I'm advocating for one thing or another. In my experience around college athletics, as an isolated incident, this is not the sort of thing that rises to the level of removing a player from the team.
No, that's not in itself, but I'm saying in aggregate.
But to your point, I think at very least there probably needs to be a conversation with Xavier Johnson, essentially to say the chances are not infinite. The second chances are not, are not just sort of like never going to run out. Now, the flip side is, that there are obviously considerations around wanting to help kids be better people. And I think coaches always feel that compulsion. I think there's also a trust within your locker room, that by all accounts, Xavier Johnson is a very popular player at Indiana. You talk to his teammates, you talk to his coaches, whatever his reputation was at Pitt, on the court and in the locker room, I don't think that's followed him here to Indiana. I don't think that has proven true at Indiana, at least based on everything I've seen and heard. And it's not saying, you can't kick a guy off the team just because he's popular, but it is saying, these players need to trust you, and they need to trust that you have their best interests at heart. And if there's a situation where they feel like you basically just sort of gave up on one of their teammates, one of their friends, to use the word that I think probably a lot of them would use, one of their brothers, because I think it does become almost a sibling relationship when you're that close to people, for that great an amount of time. I also think there's an element of, you've got to be sure if you're going to remove a player like that, not from a talent perspective, but from the perspective of all your other players looking around and acknowledging that was the right decision, and not feeling like, basically, well, he gave up so easily on him. Would he give up so easily on me? Maybe I'm not as invested in him if he's not as invested in me. At this point, I guess the timing of it as well, just where we are on the timing, I would be kind of surprised if Xavier Johnson is getting removed from the team. Like, I think that what I'm trying to say is I think that would have happened by now.
Well, a lot of people thought that it had to wait till his hearing, which I think he's got an arraignment today.
But I think
to me, it didn't matter because they're going to lower the charges. I have no doubt of that. That happens with anybody. You don't have to be an athlete to get that. That's just what they do. They charge you with what they can charge you with, so they can lower it down.
They can bring stuff down. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
which is a wider conversation maybe we should have about the legal system in this country.
Exactly.
We are where we are on that. No, I mean, I still think that it at very least.
But when is he? I guess my question is,
it would have announced
when's he going to learn?
Suspended or something.
Well, he's got it. There's got to be a suspension coming.
But what I mean,
that'll be games.
If you could, I think you could still announce that he's been suspended from team activities or something like that.
Don't you think that conversation though would have been had when, as a senior leader, in the midst of the season on the road, then where he broke curfew, and I don't know all the details yet of who was with whom and all that. But I don't know if he was the leader in that or what. Again, like I said, but what if he'd had one of these new freshmen in the car with him the other night? My concern is he learning? Because I would have thought that they would have had a serious conversation with him after that Northwestern game, with all the ramifications that came with that, the suspensions, the loss, and then the struggle to regain the momentum, and almost cost the season. And then now here's another major screw up. He had a former player in the car, but had he had a current player, a freshman, incoming freshman, my God, that's not how they want to start off. So that's what worries me. And this is the guy who's leading your team. So that's my concern.
I think that, the flip side too is, though, look how he responded. Look at how he responded when, he more than maybe any of the other four players that responded or were suspended for the Northwestern game, really kind of took that challenge on and took that charge to say, I'm going to be better. I'm going to, prove it more with my leadership. I'm going to prove it more with my performance. I mean, again, more than anything else, I would be surprised at this point if he's going to be kicked off the team or anything like that. Just for this, post in the aftermath of this incident, because I think it would have happened by now. But more broadly, I guess if I can opine briefly, I think that, to my mind, even given some of his history, some of which is legitimate, and some of which I think also becomes people sort of filling in the blanks. Like, he got suspended at Northwestern, and there were these vague suggestions that he was a troublemaker at Pitt. And so then people started putting 2 and 2 together to try and make 4, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I mean, I've talked about it.
They see the way that he plays on the court, and he likes to niggle at opponents, and he likes to cause trouble, and and all that, but like, that doesn't mean he should be, kicked off the team. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, on the preponderance of where he's at right now, I personally, in my experience, that would not rise to the level of removing him from the team. It would rise to the level of looking at him and having a really, well, first of all, probably everyone on the coaching staff taking a turn, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to meet him at Cook Hall, and let him run until he doesn't want to think about breakfast. But second of all, a really long and pretty, I think pretty direct conversation that just says, listen, again, like I said, the second chances here are not infinite. You've got to start showing more maturity, more responsibility, etc. Or else at some point, something like this is going to force us to do something we don't want to do, and is going to force us to part ways. I think I think you're certainly at a point where you need to be direct about that, and you need to be very clear. But
is that worth the risk of Forrest mentioning here? His concern is what happens if he comes back and has another issue in February in the middle of the season. Then where are you?
I mean, possibly. And again, that's more. I think that is more on a coach to read his locker room, and to say, well, how would these players respond if, how would these players respond if I made that move, or how would they respond if I made the move to maybe remove him from the team? And then the flip side is, how would they respond if, what you said happened, if there's another incident, if at some point, there are no more second chances, and we are forced, presumably to remove Xavier Johnson from the program or something like that. And that's really, that's going to be, and this is obviously a bit of a cop-out answer from a reporter, forgive me, but that is, that's going to require a level of comfort and a level of knowledge and feel for your locker room that a coach is going to have, that this coach in particular is never going to share with us. And so that's why it's also kind of hard to fully sort of, build out that sort of decision-making tree. I see somebody talking about making him run 6 a.m. suicides. If you want real
shooting until class, I like that.
If you want real punishment, take him to Ballantine Hall, and the back stairwell is 10 floors. If you want to know what a suicide feels like, run suicides on that, because we did that when I trained for Little 5 in college. And the first 4 floors are not that bad. About the time you get to 5 or 6, it really starts to hurt.
I moved my daughter into her dorm at Ole Miss. The elevators were not. You had everyone, one flight of stairs, mind you, everyone using 10 stories. She's on the 10th floor. I feel you. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, there's ways to do it. I mentioned earlier, there was a comment, the X is not the leader of this team. I didn't say he was. He should be a leader of this team. He's a senior. He's a guy that has the ball in his hands all the time. He should be a leader on this team. That's my point. And a guy that should be a leader is a guy that you want making good decisions. You want there's not one leader. Generally, I mean, there's a lot of times a go-to guy was Trace Jackson Davis, but I don't see him as a leader on this team yet, personally either. I see him as a focal point, but I don't know that this team really has a leader, and that is not their fault. I don't know that was ingrained in them, during the previous regime, and sometimes that's just natural. You can't force leadership on somebody. But the team needs a team leader or two or whatever. And if Trey stays, maybe he becomes that. If X stays, maybe this is finally the galvanizing thing for him, and he learns that.
Yeah, I mean, leadership is such a broad term, especially in college athletics, where you're dealing with young people who, I think coaches talk about this a lot. One of the most challenging things about being a leader in college is you want to be friends. It's easier to be a leader when you're the 50-year-old, 25-year experienced manager in the room of a bunch of 20 and 30 somethings. Well, of course they all look to you as a leader. It's easy to stand up and have that authority. It's harder to be the authority when you need to be forgive me for using a little colorful language here, but the hard ass in practice or in the weight room, but you still want to be the friend going out to lunch or going to a party or whatever else. It's hard to lead your peers. And in particular, it's hard to lead your peers when you're still at a stage in your life where you're developing, emotionally, when you're developing from a maturity perspective. I think that and then I think the other layer to it is anytime there's the system shock of a coaching change, guys want to fill that void, but you're still feeling out your coaching staff. You're still, it's hard to be a leader when you're not confident in what you're doing. You're not confident in the system, the sets, the calls, whatever. I think there were some guys that tried to step into that this year. Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis, certainly among them. I think Xavier Johnson tried, again, especially after Northwestern. I felt like I saw not just a different player stats-wise, but a different player in his demeanor. But I think that those are the guys that if any combination of those guys come back, those are the guys you look to. And then I think you also turn to a player like Anthony Leal or a player like Trey Galloway and say, listen, no matter how much you're playing, this is your third year here. You're invested here. You made it clear during the coaching change. You've sunk roots here. You're not going anywhere. You need to be that. You don't have to play 30 minutes a night to be a guy that's leading behind the scenes. That's leading in practice, that's constantly talking, challenging, pushing, encouraging, cajoling, calling out. But it is always a difficult topic in college sports in particular, because one, guys are transient. A guy can turn into a great leader, but then he leaves because that's the nature of college. And two, because all of these players are ultimately peers age-wise, at least to some extent, and because they want to be friends off the floor, they want to have good chemistry, and because they are still developing themselves from an emotional perspective, I think it's always a bit of a fight to figure out who can thread that needle of being a leader, being somebody that demands, that challenges, that pushes, that's not afraid to step out and say, we need to be better, you need to be better, I need to be better, not afraid to call a teammate out, while still, without doing it in a way that ostracizes them from the group, or gets, turns guys to a place. I mean, I saw this, and I'll shut up in a minute because I know you got a break, but this is something I always struggle with when I coach Little 5 teams, is if you don't just have somebody that's got that natural sort of type A follow me personality, these are guys that they want to be friends. They want to party together. They spend so much time together. They can't be sick of each other because they spend so much time together. Yep. And if you don't have somebody that is just going to naturally feel like the one that stands up and speaks out, it can be hard to get one of them to do that, to do it effectively, because it's hard for these guys to step out of their comfort zone in that way, quite frankly.
Apparently you trained wrong for the Little 500, Zach. Jesse said he did it by drinking beer. Was he wrong? Yeah, that's.
Oh, well, you should have seen us the week after the race.
Oh, I can only imagine. And also said if you want him punishment, make him a Liverpool fan. So there. Well,
It's not too bad right now. Maybe that joke might have landed 10 years ago. Not today, buddy.
Brother, I appreciate you. Go back and have fun the rest of the day with the little man. And
Absolutely. Sorry I ducked in late. I'm so sorry.
Dude, always a pleasure to have you, brother. Looking forward to it. Have a great weekend, Zach.
You too, Jim. We'll see you soon.
Zack Osterman from the Indy Star. Be a subscriber. I am. Also, so there's a comment. TJD is the leader. He's not. He should be, but he's not. I mean, and not in my opinion. He's not the leader. He's the best player on the team, but that doesn't make you the leader. I've just not seen him. If he was a leader, then those freshmen don't get in trouble up there, because I don't think that they were together, as a matter of fact. But regardless, he needs to be a leader next year. But again, you can't force that on somebody. It's natural and can be brought out, but not sure that that's where he is. Anyway, we got to take a break. Jeff Schroeder from the PGA Pro at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios come up next. Little Masters talk, baby. Hello, friends. Back with more right after this. Brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, make sure reach out to Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com, by the way. You can bring. Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's up?
How are you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Need to get you a picture. Put a Masters picture up.
Jeff, by chance, do you have a Twitter?
I do not.
Okay, just making sure.
I do, but I can't remember.
Does Eagle Point?
I believe they do.
Okay, I'll say your name and then at Eagle Point.
Do you know what that is?
Shoot.
Gotta get you guys on the social media train, man.
I know they got Instagram and Facebook and.
Well, that's the stuff the kids use. Well, the Facebook's not the Facebook. I called it the Facebook. The Facebook.
I found it. It's got 96 followers and it's not following a single person.
What, the Twitter?
Yeah, and they haven't tweeted since March 17th, 2020. Or April 17th, 2020.
What is the name of it?
The Point at Eagle Point.
Well, that's not bad, but someone has to have control over that.
2020?
Yeah, it's a Winston Churchill quote about golf.
So Tony Van Ness was probably the last person to do that. So he may be the person that has the information to get into that stupid thing.
I'll find out when we get off here because we
Y'all
had
should start using it.
Yeah,
start using the shit out of that.
Yeah, we had a gal that was doing all the social media and the platforms and everything, and now it's transferred to somebody else. So I'll have to get on that and find out what's happening.
Roy McIlroy, tea time, 10:45. Well, he's getting ready to go off here.
Still got about 30 minutes.
So, where's the score? I'm not. I gotta get off of this. Where the hell did my ESPN go? Here we go. So, Sam I Am is still winning.
30 out.
Sam I Am.
Change the brand to PB's Market.
Perfect.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Friday. It's been a great week, a great day. I hope everybody's ready for the weekend. The Masters is underway. We're in day 2. People waiting to see if Tiger's going to make the cut. We're joined now by Jeff Schroeder, the new head PGA Pro at Eagle Point. Jeff, how are you, man?
Doing good this morning. How about you, Jim?
Cannot complain. I have not made the cut yet, but I'm hopeful.
A lot of us haven't made the cut yet. The weather's not really been very cooperative.
Yeah, they don't usually have a lot of weather problems down there in Augusta.
No, not normally, but it just seems like here, that South's been getting hit with all these storms coming through. So the golf course has definitely changed, they said, in the last 10 days.
Yeah, I was looking at so what the first round. Anything stand out for you that I don't know in any way, or everything pretty normal, ordinary?
Kind of midway through the day yesterday, it didn't look like there were going to be. Well, obviously there wasn't a whole lot of low scores. So nobody can get away because you hit a bad tee shot there coming in on 17 or 18, and you can see what happened. I mean, Cam Smith had bookend doubles. He opened up with a double and had a double at the end. So, I mean, that golf course, it's just, it's pretty straightforward. You don't drive in the fairway, you're not going to score.
Dude could have a 4-stroke lead right now. I mean, if that's me, I don't have a bag left in my club. I've snapped every one of them over my leg in the hotel room afterwards. Could have a 4-stroke lead in the Masters. That's a lead, man. Maybe not after day one, but that's usually a pretty good lead.
Yeah, normally it is, but like I said, down there, that golf course could get you at any point in time. You put it in the wrong spot, and it's you're fighting just to hope to make a bogey.
Let's see. Dustin Johnson sitting and tied for third. He tees off. He's on the course right now. So he's just went out. Tiger Woods, of course, big name, everyone watching. Not a bad opening day. He was 1 under. So he just got to get through today, and I think he will end up making the cut unless he blows up.
Yeah, I think he got kind of a nice little break because he played early yesterday and got done. So, with his health and physical ailments, he's had a little extra time to kind of recover. And like he said in his interview, he was going to go home and put a lot of ice on that leg. But, today they're talking about the winds being way up and the afternoon getting really difficult. So this will be a true test of Tiger's game, I think, this afternoon, as well as the other players. I think it's one of the biggest stories to hit golf, in a long, long time. And I think, obviously he might be a little bit of an underdog, but with conditions like this, he turns out to be somewhat of a favorite.
Well, and plus, as I'm looking down, here's a list of guys that he outplayed yesterday: Brooks Koepka, Adam Scott, Zach Johnson, Patrick Harrington, Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, John Rahm, Billy Herschel, Cameron Champ, let's see, Colin Morikawa, and then oh man, who was the other one that I just missed? He won the Open last year, I think. Hideki Matsuyama. Better days than all those guys. Bubba Watson even as well. So Tony Finau, all those guys finished under Tiger yesterday. So that has to make Tiger feel pretty good coming back from what he's come back from. He's right. I'm not going to say he's right in the thick of it, but he's only 3 strokes off the lead right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in the thick of it. And one of the guys that kind of shocked me, the score he shot yesterday, because he's been hanging out with Tiger for probably the last month, is Justin Thomas. I mean, Justin shoots like 4 over yesterday, and Tiger's been, kind of tutoring him here for the last, what would you probably say, 10, 14 days on how to get around there. And, it just goes to show you how much Tiger did not have his A game by any means yesterday, but he kept it to where he managed the game so well that's why he's still, he's in the top 10 or 11 right now, something like that. So, I mean,
yep.
And after today, I mean, if he can shoot something, maybe a 68 or 69 or even a 70, I still think he's going to be in the top 10.
And of course, we've got, the Masters 4 rounds. There's a lot that happens between, especially when the weather changes. That could be a completely game changer. If that happens at the Masters, who does that favor on this course? Because every course is different. The conditions are different. Some people play better in certain conditions, but golf in conditions is just not fun.
No, they're talking, like I said, the high winds today. And then tomorrow, I think over the weekend, the temperatures are barely going to maybe get in the 60s. And so, who does it favor? A lot of people say maybe it favors the Europeans. They're more used to that inclement weather. And, down there, I still think, the local, you're as many times you played the golf course, the local knowledge has got to come into a factor this weekend.
Do you have a favorite?
I kind of like Will Zalatoris. I think he's got a lot of game. He played well there last year. But DJ's looking pretty good. I mean, he hits it very long, so the ball's not rolling a lot, so he flies it really far. Any of those guys that can hit it straight and long right now, I think have got a little bit of an advantage with the course conditions.
It's the golf club at Eagle Point, man. Last season it was in the best condition I had seen it in personally, and of course this year expecting this to look like the rolling hills of Tralee in Ireland.
Yeah, I'm brand new here, so I've been here about 4 days now, and with the weather, I haven't had a chance to get out and kind of tour and check everything out. But we've had some of the players that come in here in the last couple of days that have gotten out and played and said it's really in good shape. And obviously for this time of the year, we're in good shape to really have a nice year and for the golf course to be in excellent condition.
I'm looking forward to it. A lot of events going on as well, but also a lot of leagues during the week. One of the new ones, the Tuesday night Twilight League.
Yeah, so there's a Twilight Golf Association that they kind of administer the whole thing. So you sign up through them, and then we block out the tee times, and they do all the back office work, and then also we're in-house. We're running a league on Thursday night. So we're still taking teams for that. And you can have
that's a men's league.
Yep. Yeah. So you can have as many as 5 players on your roster, but only 2 play each week. So that kind of helps out. And it's going to be about a 20 week league with the playoffs and everything. And
playoffs.
Yeah. That's going to start April 28th. And then we'll have a get together with everybody on April 21st and go over the rules and things like that, and have a little food and a few drinks.
Also, the women's league on Wednesday evening, I believe. Yeah,
we got actually a Tuesday and a Wednesday. We got a Tuesday morning league for the ladies, and then we have a Wednesday evening league for the ladies.
And then, like I said, great conditions out here, 18 holes of good golf. You can join as a member or just pay and play, as always, right?
That is correct. Yeah, we have we have seasonal memberships, and then we have daily rates and so forth. And we give a little break to the IU students that have their they got to prove, show us an ID and so forth. So yeah, we're looking forward to another good season.
And absolutely. And you know what? Tell them. Let's just say it now. If you come in and tell them you heard him on Indiana Sports Beat, then I'm sure they'll give you some kind of discount as well.
Sure.
Give you a free ball or something. Sleeve of balls. We'll do something. Make it happen. Make it nice.
Well, Caddyshack, bowl of soup, baby.
There you go, baby. You gotta get a bowl of soup with that hat. That's exactly. I'm looking forward to the Thursday nights, man. I played in it for the last 3 years. It's just a fun time. It's different. Going to be different this year. So I'm wondering how that's going to be, because you got to actually play your own ball the whole time. So I'm not looking forward to that, and neither should my team be, whoever I'm on. But brother, I appreciate you jumping on with us today. Look forward to talking to you some more as the season progresses.
Thank you, Jim. We appreciate it. And come out and see us here at the golf club at Eagle Point, and have a great golf season out there, everybody.
There you go. Yeah, make sure golf club at Eagle Point Studios. That's where we play. Make sure you come on out, and it's just a 15-minute drive from the IU campus, baby. But Jeff, appreciate you joining us. It's been a great day. Another great one with Alec Lasley joining us, Zack Osterman from the Indianapolis Star, and of course Jeff Schroeder, as I just said, from the golf club at Eagle Point. Got a thanks to Keegan for stepping in this week for John, the producer. Well, he thinks he's on vacation or something, Keegan. Just taking all that time off. Where are we? Yeah, we still got a minute and a half. But looking forward to this weekend. I wish the weather would be a little better so we could get out and do something. But I think we still got about another week to go on the weather-wise as I quickly look at that. I think Monday, 70 degrees on Monday. Oh, yeah, that's the par 3 on Monday. They Eagle Point moved their Masters par 3 challenge from this past Wednesday to Monday because of weather. So if you're interested in playing in that, I'm going to. You just play the par 3 course that they set up, and then they draw you one of the pros from the Masters. Kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to doing that. That'll be on Monday. But it's been a great week, as I said, and a great time. Cannot thank you guys enough. Without you all, we have got nothing else to. That's right. You'll get nothing like it. Fishing season's here for Jesse. So, well, that's something you can always do, even in the rain. Appreciate everybody. Hope you've had a great week. Enjoyed the shows and have a greater weekend. Until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.